Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The clock ticked monotonously in the background, echoing through Milan's dimly lit apartment. He slouched on the worn leather couch, scrolling mindlessly through his phone, the blue light casting an eerie glow on his face. Another day, another endless cycle of routine. A notification popped up on his screen, an ad for a new restaurant downtown. Milan sighed, tossing the phone aside. Even the prospect of trying something new felt stale. Is this really all there is? He muttered to himself, running a hand through his unkempt hair. The sudden sharp knock at the door jolted Milan from his reverie. He frowned, not expecting any visitors at this hour. Cautiously, he approached the door and peered through the peephole. A tall figure stood in the hallway, shrouded in a dark coat despite the warm evening. Milan hesitated, then curiosity got the better of him. He unlatched the lock and opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" The stranger's lips curled into an enigmatic smile. "Actually, I believe I can help you, Milan." Milan's eyes narrowed. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," the man replied smoothly. "But I know you're looking for a change, something to break the monotony." Milan's heart quickened. How could this stranger know his innermost thoughts? "Who are you?" he demanded. The man's eyes glinted with amusement. "You can call me the dealer. May I come in? I have a proposition that might interest you." Against his better judgment, Milan found himself stepping aside, allowing the mysterious visitor to enter his apartment. The dealer strode in confidently, his polished shoes clicking against the hardwood floor. "Nice place," the dealer commented, glancing around the modest living room. "But I sense it doesn't quite feel like home anymore, does it?" Milan shifted uncomfortably. "What do you want?" The dealer reached into his coat pocket, producing a deck of cards. They seemed to shimmer in the low light, their edges razor-sharp. "I'm offering you a chance, Milan. A chance to change everything." Milan's eyes fixed on the deck. Despite his skepticism, he couldn't deny the pull he felt towards them. "What do you mean?" The dealer fanned out the cards, their faces blank. "Each of these cards represents a new identity, new abilities, new traits, a whole new life. All you have to do is draw one." Milan scoffed. "You expect me to believe that?" The dealer's smile never wavered. "Belief isn't necessary, only action. Draw a card, Milan. What do you have to lose?" The words struck a chord. What did he have to lose? His mundane job? His empty apartment? His non-existent social life? With trembling fingers, Milan reached out and plucked a card from the deck. As soon as his skin made contact, a jolt of electricity coursed through his body. He gasped, dropping the card to the floor. The world began to spin. Milan clutched his head, stumbling backwards. His skin tingled, muscles stretched and contracted. He tried to cry out, but his voice caught in his throat. When the sensation finally subsided, Milan opened his eyes. But the person staring back from the mirror on the wall wasn't Milan anymore. A woman with long chestnut hair and striking green eyes gazed back in shock. She was dressed in a fitted blazer and pencil skirt, a far cry from Milan's usual t-shirt and jeans. What happened?" The voice that emerged was higher, softer. The dealer chuckled. "Congratulations, Whitney. You've been dealt a new hand." Whitney. The name resonated in her mind, feeling both foreign and familiar at once. "I don't understand," Whitney said, marveling at her transformed appearance. "How is this possible?" The dealer pocketed the deck of cards. "The how isn't important. What matters now is what you do with this opportunity. You wanted change, Whitney. Now you have it." Whitney's mind raced. She had memories, her memories. But they were intertwined with new ones. A successful career as a marketing executive, a penthouse apartment overlooking the city, a busy social calendar. "This can't be real," she murmured, touching her face, her hair. "Oh, it's very real," the dealer assured her. "From this moment on, you are Whitney Carter. Your old life as Milan is gone." How you adapt to this new reality is entirely up to you. Whitney's heart pounded. Part of her wanted to panic, to demand the dealer change her back. But another part, a growing part, felt exhilarated. This was the change she had craved, wasn't it? "What happens now?" she asked, her voice steadier. The dealer moved towards the door. "Now you live. Embrace your new identity, Whitney. The world is yours to explore." With that, he was gone, leaving Whitney alone in the unfamiliar apartment that was now hers. She took a deep breath, straightening her blazer. This was really happening. She was no longer Milan, trapped in a monotonous existence. She was Whitney Carter, and a whole new life awaited her. Whitney's phone buzzed on the coffee table. She picked it up, seeing a reminder for a morning meeting with clients. Right. She had a job to do. As she gathered her things, preparing for the day ahead, Whitney couldn't help but smile. The unpredictability she had longed for was now her reality. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and exactly what she needed. She stepped out of the apartment, locking the door behind her. The hallway stretched before her, a metaphor for the new path she was about to embark on. Whitney squared her shoulders and strode forward, ready to face whatever challenges her new life might bring. The elevator dinged, and Whitney stepped inside, her heels clicking against the polished floor. As the doors closed, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirrored walls. The face staring back was still unfamiliar, but she was determined to own it. The lobby bustled with activity as Whitney made her way through the crowd. She nodded confidently to the doorman, who tipped his hat in return. "Good morning, Ms. Carter." Outside, the city hummed with energy. Whitney hailed a taxi, sliding into the back seat with practiced ease. "Carter Marketing, please," she instructed the driver, the words flowing naturally from her lips. As the taxi wove through traffic, Whitney's mind raced. She had a whole set of memories about her job, her colleagues, her clients, but they felt like a movie she had watched, rather than experiences she had lived. She would need to tread carefully to avoid arousing suspicion while she acclimated to her new role. The taxi pulled up in front of a sleek high-rise. Whitney paid the fare and stepped out, taking a moment to admire the building that housed her company. Her company. The thought sent a thrill through her. Inside, she breezed past security with a swipe of her ID badge. The elevator whisked her up to the 30th floor, where the doors opened to reveal a bustling office space. "Morning, Whitney!" A perky blonde woman approached, holding out a steaming cup of coffee. "I grabbed your usual. You've got the Henderson pitch in 20 minutes. Whitney accepted the coffee, grateful for the jolt of familiarity. This must be her assistant. "Thanks, Amy," the woman supplied, giving Whitney an odd look. "Are you feeling okay?" Whitney forced a smile. "Just a bit scattered this morning. Thanks for the reminder about the pitch." She made her way to her office, closing the door behind her with a sigh of relief. The space was immaculate, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Diplomas and awards lined one wall, testament to Whitney Carter's professional success. Whitney settled behind the desk, booting up the computer. She had mere minutes to prepare for a meeting she knew nothing about. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she pushed it down. She was Whitney Carter now, and Whitney Carter didn't panic. A knock at the door interrupted her frantic preparation. "Come in," she called, straightening in her chair. A tall man with salt and pepper hair entered, his expression serious. "Whitney, do you have a moment?" Whitney nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat. "Of course, Mr." She trailed off, hoping he would fill in the blank. "Harrison," he finished, frowning slightly. "Are you feeling all right? You seem a bit off." Whitney laughed nervously. "Just a little under the weather. What can I do for you, Mr. Harrison?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "I wanted to discuss the Hendersons. They're our biggest potential client this quarter. If we land this account, it could mean big things for the company and for you." Whitney's heart raced. The stakes were higher than she had realized. "I understand. I won't let you down." Mr. Harrison nodded, standing to leave. "I know you won't. That's why you're our best, Whitney. Good luck in there." As the door closed behind him, Whitney let out a shaky breath. She had minutes to prepare for the most important pitch of her career, a career she had only inhabited for less than an hour. She rifled through the papers on her desk, finding a folder labeled Henderson Proposal. Flipping it open, she began to scan the contents, praying that Whitney's memories and skills would kick in when she needed them most. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as Whitney strode in, her heels echoing against the hardwood floor. 5 pairs of eyes turned to her expectantly. Her team, she realized, recognizing their faces from the flashes of memory that kept surfacing. "Good morning, everyone," Whitney said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Let's get started, shall we?" She took her place at the head of the table, laying out her materials with practiced precision. As she began to speak, Whitney felt a surge of confidence. The words flowed effortlessly, as if she had been preparing for this moment her entire life. "The Henderson Group is looking for more than just a marketing campaign," Whitney explained, her green eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "They want a partner who understands their vision, who can help them connect with their audience on a deeper level." She clicked through her presentation, each slide perfectly tailored to address the Hendersons' needs. Whitney found herself drawing on knowledge she didn't know she possessed, weaving together a compelling narrative that had her team nodding along in agreement. As she wrapped up her pitch, Whitney felt a rush of exhilaration. She had done it. Despite the surreal circumstances, she had stepped into Whitney Carter's shoes and delivered a knockout presentation. The room erupted in applause as Whitney concluded. She smiled, basking in the moment of triumph. "Any questions?" she asked, ready to field whatever came her way. A hand raised at the far end of the table. "Ms. Carter, your proposal is impressive, but I'm curious about the budget allocation for social media influencers. Don't you think it's a bit conservative?" Whitney's smile never faltered. "An excellent question, Mr. Henderson. I'm glad you brought that up." Mr. Henderson. The client himself was in the room, and Whitney hadn't even realized it. She took a deep breath, drawing on Whitney's expertise once more. "While the budget may seem conservative at first glance, our strategy focuses on quality over quantity. We've identified key influencers whose audiences align perfectly with your target demographic. By fostering deeper, more authentic partnerships with these select individuals, we believe we can achieve greater engagement and conversion rates than a broader, less focused approach." Mr. Henderson nodded, clearly impressed. "I see. And how do you plan to measure the success of these partnerships?" Whitney launched into a detailed explanation of their analytics and reporting processes, feeling more comfortable with each passing moment. By the time the meeting concluded, the energy in the room was electric. Mr. Henderson approached Whitney as the others filed out. "Ms. Carter, I have to say I'm impressed. Your team has clearly put a lot of thought into this proposal." Whitney beamed. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. We're excited about the potential of working with your company." He extended his hand. "As am I. I look forward to ironing out the details with you soon." As Whitney shook his hand, she felt a surge of pride. She had not only survived her first test as Whitney Carter, but had excelled beyond her wildest expectations. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of meetings, phone calls, and strategy sessions. Whitney found herself slipping more comfortably into her new role with each passing hour. The initial panic and disorientation faded, replaced by a growing sense of excitement about the possibilities that lay ahead. As the office began to empty for the day, Whitney leaned back in her chair, taking a moment to process everything that had happened. In the span of a single day, she had gone from being Milan, trapped in a monotonous existence, to Whitney Carter, a successful executive on the brink of landing a major client. The transformation was more than just physical. Whitney could feel the differences in her personality, her thought processes, even her mannerisms. She was more confident, more driven, more at ease in social situations. It was as if the best parts of Milan had been amplified and refined, creating a version of herself she had always aspired to be. A knock at her office door interrupted her musings. "Come in," she called, straightening in her chair. Amy, her assistant, poked her head in. "Hey, Whitney, just wanted to remind you about drinks with the girls tonight. We're meeting at Skyline at 8. Don't work too late." Whitney blinked, momentarily thrown. Girls' night, of course. She had a social life now, complete with a circle of friends who expected her presence. "Thanks, Amy. I'll be there," Whitney assured her, making a mental note of the time and place. As Amy left, Whitney turned to her computer, pulling up her calendar. She marveled at the packed schedule. Client meetings, yoga classes, charity events. Whitney Carter's life was full in a way Milan's never had been. With a start, Whitney realized she had no idea where she lived. She rifled through her purse, finding a sleek wallet with a driver's license inside. The address listed was in one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods. Whitney gathered her things, both nervous and excited about exploring her new home. As she made her way out of the office, she caught her reflection in a window. The woman staring back was poised, polished, and radiating confidence. Whitney smiled at her reflection, feeling a sense of rightness she had never experienced as Milan. The taxi ride to her apartment was a journey of discovery. Whitney found herself noticing details about the city she had never paid attention to before. The architecture of the buildings, the fashionable boutiques lining the streets, the vibrant energy of the people around her. Her building was a modern high-rise with a uniformed doorman who greeted her by name. "Good evening, Ms. Carter. Lovely day, isn't it?" Whitney smiled, stepping into the marble-floored lobby. "It certainly is. Thank you." The elevator whisked her up to the penthouse level. Whitney's hands shook slightly as she fumbled with her keys, anticipation building as she opened the door to her new home. The apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The decor was elegant and modern, with plush furnishings and original artwork adorning the walls. Whitney wandered from room to room, marveling at the spacious kitchen, the luxurious bathroom with its oversized tub, and the walk-in closet filled with designer clothes. It was a far cry from Milan's cramped, cluttered apartment. Whitney ran her hand along the smooth countertop in the kitchen, feeling a mix of awe and disbelief. This was her life now. A glance at the clock reminded her of her plans for the evening. Whitney made her way to the closet, surveying the array of outfits before her. She selected a sleek black dress and a pair of strappy heels, items Milan would never have dreamed of wearing. As she got ready, applying makeup with a skill she didn't know she possessed, Whitney couldn't help but reflect on the whirlwind of changes she had experienced. Part of her still couldn't believe this was real, that she had truly left her old life behind. But with each passing moment, Whitney Carter felt more and more like her true self. The taxi dropped her off in front of Skyline, a trendy rooftop bar with panoramic views of the city. Whitney took a deep breath, smoothing down her dress before stepping inside. This would be her first real test in a social setting. "Whitney, over here!" She turned to see a group of women waving enthusiastically from a corner table. Whitney made her way over, pasting on a smile and hoping her nerves didn't show. "There you are!" A redhead in a green blouse pulled her into a hug. "We were starting to think you'd stood us up for work again." Whitney laughed, the sound coming naturally. "And miss out on margarita night? Never." She slid into an empty seat, grateful when a waiter appeared with a tray of drinks. Whitney took a sip of her margarita, the tart lime flavor helping to calm her nerves. "So," a brunette leaned in conspiratorially, "spill the tea. How did the big pitch go?" Whitney found herself recounting the events of the day, embellishing here and there to match the expectations of her friends. They gasped and cheered in all the right places, and Whitney felt a warm glow of belonging. As the night wore on, Whitney relaxed more and more. She laughed at inside jokes she somehow understood, shared gossip about people she had never met but somehow knew intimately, and even found herself offering relationship advice to one of the women. It was surreal, slipping into this life that wasn't hers, but somehow was. Whitney marveled at how easy it felt, how natural. The insecurities and awkwardness that had plagued Milan were nowhere to be found. As last call approached, Whitney hugged her friends goodbye, promises to meet for brunch on Sunday ringing in her ears. She stepped out into the cool night air, feeling light and happy in a way she couldn't remember feeling before. Back in her apartment, Whitney kicked off her heels and poured herself a glass of water. She wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the glittering cityscape below. In the reflection of the glass, she saw not just her new appearance, but a new version of herself. Whitney Carter was everything Milan had wanted to be: successful, confident, surrounded by friends. She had been given a chance to start over, to live the life she had always dreamed of. As she got ready for bed, Whitney's mind drifted to the mysterious dealer and his deck of cards. She wondered how many others like her were out there, living new lives, exploring new identities. The thought was both exciting and unsettling. Lying in her plush, king-sized bed, Whitney closed her eyes, marveling at the turn her life had taken. In the span of a day, she had gone from a life of monotony to one full of possibility and adventure. As sleep began to overtake her, Whitney made a silent promise to herself. She would make the most of this opportunity, embracing every moment of her new life with open arms. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she was looking forward to what tomorrow might bring. The next morning, Whitney awoke to the gentle chime of her alarm. For a moment, disorientation set in as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. Then, the events of the previous day came flooding back, and a smile spread across her face. She stretched languidly, reveling in the softness of the Egyptian cotton sheets. The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the room in warm light. Whitney padded to the window, taking in the breathtaking view of the city coming to life below. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and Whitney retrieved it, scrolling through her notifications. There was an email from Mr. Henderson, expressing his enthusiasm about moving forward with their partnership. Whitney felt a surge of pride and excitement. As she made her way to the kitchen, Whitney found herself marveling at the little details of her new life. The smooth marble countertops, the high-end coffee maker, the fridge stocked with organic produce and gourmet ingredients. It was a far cry from Milan's bachelor pad kitchenette. Whitney prepared a smoothie, the actions feeling both foreign and familiar. As she sipped the healthy concoction, she pondered the day ahead. There was a strategy meeting with her team to discuss the next steps for the Henderson account, followed by a lunch with a potential new client. She dressed in a tailored pantsuit, the fabric hugging her curves in a way that made her feel powerful and confident. As she applied her makeup, Whitney studied her reflection, still somewhat in awe of the transformation. The woman staring back at her exuded an air of sophistication and success. Her green eyes sparkled with intelligence and determination. Whitney touched her face gently, tracing the unfamiliar yet somehow right features. "You've got this," she whispered to her reflection, a mantra she imagined Whitney Carter would use to start her day. The commute to work was a blur of city streets and hurried pedestrians. Whitney found herself noticing things she never had before: the intricate architecture of the buildings, the fashion choices of her fellow commuters, the enticing aromas wafting from corner cafes. At the office, Whitney threw herself into work with gusto. She led the strategy meeting with confidence, delegating tasks and offering innovative ideas that had her team buzzing with excitement. "Great work, everyone," Whitney concluded, feeling a rush of satisfaction. "Let's reconvene tomorrow to finalize the proposal." As her team filed out, Amy approached with a stack of documents. "These need your signature, and don't forget about your lunch appointment at Le Petit Bistro at 1 p.m. Whitney nodded, accepting the papers. "Thanks, Amy. You're a lifesaver." Left alone in her office, Whitney allowed herself a moment to breathe. The constant juggling of responsibilities was exhilarating, but also somewhat overwhelming. She wondered if the real Whitney Carter ever felt this way, or if it was just her own inexperience showing through. The rest of the morning flew by in a whirlwind of phone calls, emails, and impromptu meetings. Before she knew it, it was time for her lunch appointment. Le Petit Bistro was a charming French restaurant, its intimate atmosphere perfect for business discussions. Whitney arrived to find her client already seated, a distinguished woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense air about her. "Ms. Carter," The woman stood, extending her hand. "I'm Victoria Langley. Thank you for meeting with me." Whitney shook her hand firmly. "The pleasure is mine, Ms. Langley. Shall we order?" As they perused the menus, Whitney racked her brain for information about this potential client. Bits and pieces of knowledge floated to the surface. Victoria Langley, CEO of a rapidly growing tech startup, looking to rebrand as they prepared for international expansion. Their conversation flowed smoothly as they enjoyed their meal. Whitney found herself drawing on reserves of knowledge and charm she didn't know she possessed. She spoke eloquently about market trends, innovative marketing strategies, and the importance of cohesive branding in the digital age. By the time dessert arrived, Victoria was leaning forward, clearly engaged. "I have to say, Ms. Carter, your reputation precedes you, but you've managed to exceed my expectations." Whitney smiled, a warm glow of pride spreading through her chest. "I'm glad to hear that. At Carter Marketing, we believe in going above and beyond for our clients." Victoria nodded approvingly. "Well, consider me impressed. I think this could be the beginning of a very fruitful partnership." As they parted ways outside the restaurant, Whitney felt a surge of elation. She had just secured another major client, further cementing her position as a force to be reckoned with in the marketing world. The afternoon passed in a productive blur. Whitney found herself effortlessly multitasking, juggling client calls, strategy sessions, and creative brainstorming with ease. It was as if she had unlocked a part of her brain that had always been there, dormant, just waiting for the right moment to shine. As the workday wound down, Whitney leaned back in her chair, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. In just 2 days, she had stepped into a new life and not only survived, but thrived. The insecurities and self-doubt that had plagued Milan seemed like a distant memory. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from a contact named David. "Still on for dinner tonight? Can't wait to see you. X." Whitney's heart skipped a beat. David. The name conjured images of a handsome man with kind eyes and a warm smile, memories of romantic dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, and passionate embraces flooded her mind. She typed out a quick reply. "Absolutely. See you at 8 esques." As Whitney gathered her things to leave, a mix of excitement and nervousness bubbled up inside her. This would be her first encounter with Whitney Carter's romantic life. She wondered how much of herself, her true self, would shine through, and how much would be the persona she had inherited. The elevator ride down to the lobby was a whirlwind of emotions. Whitney found herself both eager and apprehensive about the evening ahead. As she stepped out onto the bustling city street, hailing a taxi to take her home, she couldn't help but marvel at the twists and turns her life had taken. From Milan's monotonous existence to Whitney's vibrant, challenging life, it was more than just a change of scenery. It was a complete reinvention, a chance to live the life she had always dreamed of, but never believed possible. As the taxi weaved through traffic, Whitney gazed out at the city, a small smile playing on her lips. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them head on. This was her life now, and she was determined to make the most of every moment. The taxi pulled up in front of her building, and Whitney stepped out, her heels clicking against the pavement. She had a date to prepare for, a new facet of her life to explore. With a deep breath and a confident stride, she made her way inside, ready to embrace whatever the evening might bring. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.